This is episode 11 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview-style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. I'd like to welcome Jessica Eaves Matthews. Jessica is America's advocate for women in business. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, intellectual property and business lawyer, best-selling author, sought-after speaker, and leading authority on helping women entrepreneurs and executives step into their power and create a brilliant business, career, and life in their own terms. She's the co-author of the #1 best-selling book, Wonder Women: How Western Women Will Save the World, has been featured on MSNBC, Oprah Magazine, Forbes.com, NBC, Oxygen, Allure Magazine, and was the Silver Stevie Award winner for Female Entrepreneur of the Year in 2012, the 2013 Albuquerque Business First Top CEO, and a 2015 Albuquerque. Sorry, I'm getting lost in all of your accomplishments.
That's okay.
Wow, I'm going to stop. There's so many. Can I just say you're amazing, and we're going to welcome you. But the one thing that I do want to get to outside of the accomplishments before we start is that you're also co-founder of Hotpreneurs, the premier peer network for New Mexico's women entrepreneurs. So
Yes.
Everybody welcome Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
What in the world? How you are so accomplished.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks for everything you're doing. And what's interesting to me is when I go through kind of where you started, and you're a lawyer by trade. And I would love to know how or what happened that you got involved in entrepreneurship.
Oh, it was such an interesting journey for me because I was a lawyer for quite a while. I started practicing law in 1995, and I don't know how many years it was, 12 or 13 years into my practice, I realized, I looked around and I was not happy because we were talking before we started recording about all the hats we juggle and the things, that we do, as women in particular. And I realized that I wasn't getting to do the things that really meant something to me. I was a mother of a young child. I think she was like 1.5 at the time that I had this epiphany. And I looked around at all of my women friends who were lawyers, who were amazing, brilliant, incredible people, and they were equally unhappy. And we were all just basically shackled by our jobs. We all had, we'd all worked our way up. So we all had positions of respect, and we were making great money. And I don't know a single woman at the time that was in my circle that was a happy person. We all just felt like, we basically were tied to our paychecks and really didn't have any other choices. And so I started thinking about what that meant for us. And it happened to be the same year I was turning 40. And I just had this moment where I thought, is this it? I mean, for the rest of my life, am I going to be pushing paper and helping my clients manage their wealth as a lawyer, protect their assets? What will I have to show for? When I'm 80, or when I'm hopefully very old and on my deathbed, what will I feel like I spent my time on this planet well?
Right.
I mean, that was really the thing that hit me. And I started thinking about how could I make a change so that I did feel like I had used my time well? And how would I help other women, the women that I love and respect that I see who aren't happy? How could I help them make the same change? And sorry about my dog, by the way. He's growling.
Don't worry.
I have 4 dogs, and who knows what they'll do during this. So that was really the change for me. Is I had some ideas about businesses, and actually prior to that time, my now ex-husband and I had launched a construction firm together. Okay. And that was really my first foray into entrepreneurship. And he's a super talented builder. And so we really built the business around his talent, and it grew very quickly to a multi-7-figure business within just a few years.
Oh, wow.
And I learned how to launch and grow and manage a business from the ground up from that experience. And so I was sort of bit by the bug with that, but then we divorced, unfortunately. And so I was left, having to go back to the practice of law for a while full time, really when I had this realization. So I knew that I liked running a business. I had other ideas, but that was really what launched me into it, was just feeling like there had to be more for me, and there had to be more for these amazing, brilliant, talented women that I knew that were also feeling like they were stuck in lives that didn't make them feel fulfilled or happy.
Yeah. What do you think when you were, I mean, that's a pretty big shift going from law into running a construction company, but it sounds like you really dug in, learned a lot, and liked it. What was it that was kind of fulfilling to you?
In retrospect, I loved all of it. Honestly, I loved being my own boss.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved figuring it out as I went. I loved the client care. I loved delighting our clients. I loved giving them a great experience. And I loved building the brand. And that was something that I didn't have any experience with before. I never even thought about branding as a lawyer. It never even occurred to me.
Right.
And so I think for me, when I look back on it, the things I enjoyed the most were, sorry about that. The things I enjoyed the most were related to the branding and the customer experience. Oscar, come here. Sorry.
You're so cute.
My two little dogs are playing. And
it's dogs and children. You don't know what they're going to do. Funny. And isn't that so interesting about entrepreneurship? Because what I find a lot of people say about it is, yes, it's hard work and all of that, most definitely, but there's also a lot of opportunity where you can play and take on the projects that excite you and delight you and that you want to be involved with.
Oh, it's seriously the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it's frankly been so much harder than practicing law ever was. I mean, I thought I worked hard then. I work all the time now, but I have so much control over how I work. Obviously, I'm sitting here with my dog in my lap in my home, which is my favorite place to work. But I can work, my daughter and I love to travel, so I can work from Paris. I have so much flexibility that the trade-offs are so worth it for me. The risk and the stress and just the challenges as an entrepreneur that I face now, I would never give up. I can't imagine, knock on wood, ever going back to work for somebody else.
That's pretty much what every entrepreneur says, I think. Yeah. And the phrase I'm hearing a lot now from entrepreneurs is, I'm unemployable. No one would ever hire me with my demands for flexibility or this or that. It's just.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so feisty. They know something's going on. I think they hear my voice and they feel like someone's there.
People go walking down our neighborhood and they bark. So,
what do you think when you were running that construction company and you were really kind of learning a lot about entrepreneurship? What was a rookie mistake that you can share with everyone?
Oh gosh, there were so many because. We were just learning the business. I think most of the mistakes we made were relating to, timeliness of delivery of our services and the concept of over delivering but under promising, those types of things, because managing expectations, I think, are one of the most critical things for an entrepreneur. And I certainly am not perfect. I face those challenges every day like we all do. But I think if we made any mistakes, it was really relating to managing expectations and understanding what we were really capable of, not being overly enthusiastic about what we could deliver and how. We still had really happy clients, but we certainly had some that got frustrated with us. So that was a real learning experience. And also just the ability to receive criticism and feedback from your clients, because that industry is rife with that. Right. And being able to receive it without being defensive, but also, and being able to respond in a way that your client feels heard and validated and valued. Right. And then taking what you need into consideration, making appropriate changes in how you interact with that client, and systematizing that feedback going forward for all your clients. So it was an incredible learning experience for me, one that I've definitely taken forward. in
Yeah,
everything that
that's really valuable, that piece about systematizing, because as you grow, and a lot of these companies, particularly in the tech world, tend to grow so quickly that if they
Mhm.
don't have the systems, they can't quite keep up. And so
It's
putting,
the most important
you
thing, I
know,
think.
it is
Yeah.
such a time saver. And I think it helps
Mhm.
with building the culture. It helps with
It
the expectation piece, you
does.
know. I
And
do,
it helps you scale faster, frankly,
yeah,
because you're not reinventing the wheel and you're not doing sort of this, bespoke experience for each client.
right.
That's the thing. The thing I've learned is to look for the similarities among all of my clients and what can I deliver in a very consistent way. Because if you look at the most successful brands in the world, they have learned to systematize the experience in a way that you always know what you're going to get with that brand. So even
Yes.
McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks, Virgin, they all understand that, and that is all about systematizing the experience.
Right.
So I think that's incredibly important to take the time as an entrepreneur to understand what you want that experience to be, and to find a way to systematize it and train your employees or contractors as they start coming into your business. And you're going to revise it. You're always going to be pivoting and improving
Yeah.
forever, but to do that from the beginning certainly makes things a lot easier on you as the founder as you grow, and
I
on
just,
your employees.
yeah, I just saw an interview with Jessica Alba. I think it was on Fast Company for her
I love
Honest
her.
Company. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
amazing. And one thing
yeah.
that they were saying is in her first year, she had 10 employees. And then 3 years later, today, she has 300. And that was one thing that she was saying. How do you go, when you go from 10 to 300 employees, what do you
Yeah,
do?
right.
One, I'm shocked with how big that company is, that there's only 300 employees.
I
But
know, it's amazing.
yeah, but the other thing was she talked about systems. She's like, we have to have these
Yeah,
processes and systems because
yeah.
she can't talk to 300 people every day
Right.
or review that. And so that was really important for her.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you so after the construction company, you went back to law for a bit, and then what did you do back to continue your entrepreneurial journey?
So I'd had this idea of actually for almost my entire legal practice, but I never had the guts to execute on it. I started down that road a little bit, probably my second year in law practice back in the mid 90s. But I didn't really know how to do it. I didn't know how to find mentors. I was really kind of flying blind. And so I sort of tabled it. But the idea was fashionable golf clothing for women. And it's because I was, Oscar, come here. It was because I was golfing a lot as a lawyer,
Yeah.
and um, and I couldn't stand the clothes. And it really bothered me because not only were the clothes marginalizing to women, because either you look like a mini man or a 13-year-old girl, or
Oh,
your skirt's really short, and
yeah.
you have to basically leave the discussion to go change, because you can't wear what you wore to the office. All the guys could. They could go straight from the
Interesting.
office to the course, but as a woman, you could not wear what you wore to the office. So you would have to go to the locker room and change into something that really probably wasn't an expression of who you are. And so the men were all comfortable in clothes that they would
Yeah.
wear anywhere, and
Mhm.
you're in clothes that,
They
they're not flattering. And they might actually, objectify you as a woman sexually because your legs are showing, or, whatever. You don't
Right.
want that in a business meeting. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I don't mind that in
Well,
front
and
of
then
my
you're
girl.
missing time while you're changing and getting ready in the locker room. You're missing the time where
You're
all the
missing the
guys are
conversation.
already going. Yeah,
Exactly. So,
that's
and you're
interesting.
missing like 20 minutes of the conversation on each side of the game,
Uh,
because the minute you finish, if you guys all go in the clubhouse for a drink after or for dinner, and then of course you have hat head, and you're like trying to dry your hair under the hand dryer, and I mean it just frustrated me,
yeah, the
honestly. And
woes
so
of
I was
golfers.
solving a
I've
problem
never
for
even thought of
myself.
that.
Yeah. So I
Listen.
launched a golf clothing line called Grace and Game, which I still have, and that was just an incredible experience because I didn't know anything about designing clothing or manufacturing clothing, wholesale versus retail, e-commerce.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it was quite a baptism into, particularly into online entrepreneurship, which was not something I knew anything about prior to launching that.
Right. So we hear that from a lot of entrepreneurs that, well, they say they don't have the skills or that they don't know about this thing. But what I feel is there's an ego part that says, am I good enough to do this? Can I make it happen? I'd love to know on that experience, like how you overcame that, knowing that you never dealt with retail or wholesale or fashion design or whatever.
Well, for me, one of the benefits that I brought into it is that as a lawyer, one of the things you learn how to do is research and learn an industry, because I spent a lot of years, representing clients from all different industries. And as a lawyer, if you're a good lawyer, you get to know your client's industry fast.
Yeah.
You've got to get in there and understand it. And so not to the extent that you need to as an entrepreneur, but I already had the ability to research and find information. It was something I had been doing for a long, long time as a lawyer. So I felt pretty confident that I could figure it out. And honestly, I had two other things going for me. One is I literally stepped out of the practice of law, so I lost that very lucrative income and was in a complete panic to make something happen.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I had to make it work. But also, I was so passionate about it. It's something I'd wanted to do for years. And I literally would jump out of bed in the morning, and I was completely driven by my excitement. So it just kept me going. And honestly, I also believe, there's a little bit of a spiritual side of it for me, because I believe that when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, which I think that was what I was supposed to be doing at that time. If you're in the flow of that activity, things just come to you. So it was the strangest thing, because I would say, oh gosh, I need a sample maker, and I don't even know how to find one. And in less than 24 hours, I'd find one. The person would somehow cross my path, in a serendipitous way. It was like setting the expectation it would show. So I have to admit, things just flowed. When I was launching that company, it just sort of happened. It was a ton of work, but I was really just sort of driven forward almost by a supernatural energy.
That's really cool. I recently saw this episode. What is that guy's name? Neil deGrasse, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
He does all the astrology.
Yeah.
Well, he interviewed David Byrne, the Talking Heads guy.
Yeah.
And they were having a conversation, and I guess there's research out there that shows that when artists are improvising, they're actually using their full brain. Like both sides are talking to each other and things are actually happening. And I'm wondering if when you were in that space where so much was unknown, like it was almost improvising. And so both
exactly
sides were firing together. It was out of the, I always share that my first marketing job was in a sea of cubicles. Like they were nice cubicles, but they were still cubicles. and both sides of my brain were not working together.
Right.
It was,
No.
But now
I know exactly.
Now as I'm running this business and growing, there is a lot of improv. There's a lot of days where I'm just like, you know what? I've never done that before, but here we go.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of value in that. So that's really cool. So
that's a great analogy.
So you have that company. Where was the transition where you really started helping other women entrepreneurs?
Well, it was really from the beginning. It was sort of concurrent with launching Grace and Game, because as I said, when I really came to the epiphany that I needed to make a change for myself, a big driver behind that was wanting to help other women.
Right.
And so at the same time I was launching Grace and Game, I was trying to figure out, how do I make entrepreneurship or business ownership or launching your own law firm, which is something I focused on for women for a while, an easy thing to do. I was envisioning like a plug and play law practice or a business in a box. Because I had so many friends. I spent about a year before I quit practicing full time in Seattle for someone else. I had about a year where I interviewed friends. I spent lots of time having coffee with and talking to women to figure out where they were. And the one thing that I heard over and over from all of my lawyer friends, literally every single one of them, was that they did not have the courage to take the leap and rely on themselves to rainmake, is what they call it in the legal world, but to find business and to launch their own firm. It really scared them. They were not wired to do that. And so for me, I wanted to find a way that would minimize the risk and systematize the way you would launch, so that they could make that leap. So that was something I was pursuing right from the very beginning, and it got me into the world of entrepreneurship in general.
Right.
And I started hiring coaches and joining programs and learning all I could about online marketing. And so at the same time I was launching Grace in the Game, I was also pursuing and educating myself about all of that, because I really wanted to figure that out for the women that I loved. And I knew there were others. I knew it wasn't just going to be my friends. I knew if I had that many friends feeling that way, that it was an epidemic problem for women in this country.
Right. So how did you find mentors and coaches?
Oh God, I think I spent a lot of time searching the internet. I honestly do not know how I first found my first coach. Again, I feel like it was somewhat serendipitous. It was all online.
Yeah.
It was all searching.
Amazing?
And
I joke about the World Wide Web, but it's, it's
pretty amazing.
Such a connection machine, and
oh my gosh,
it's incredible for that.
I love it so much. And it's funny because I've seen something going around Facebook this week of what was the first picture you ever posted on Facebook. I don't know if you've seen people posting that.
I did it. Yes.
And I need to do it. I haven't done it yet, but I was thinking about when Facebook first came out, because I was definitely an early adopter. I was an early adopter on Facebook and on Twitter. And I remember sitting in my office at my last job. I worked for Paul Allen, the other founder of Microsoft, and I was in my office, and a couple of the other lawyers and I were like, what is this thing? What the heck is Facebook? But I remember secretly being curious. So I went ahead and signed up, and I didn't really tell anyone else in the office that I signed up, but I was just fascinated with what is this? And I kind of want to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And just from the very beginning, when things really started exploding in social media, I was on board. I just love it. I love it. So I'm lucky because I love that space. And especially as a lawyer, I have a lot of lawyer friends that don't even use Facebook.
Right. I would imagine
the power of social media to promote their businesses. And so I'm glad that it's something I've enjoyed, but it's amazing. It's amazingly powerful if you know how to use it, which you are the expert in, obviously.
Well, you know what? That same time that you were getting signed up, I was also an early adopter on Facebook, and I was a director of marketing. And I just remember how many conversations we had in what we called the war room about should the brands be on social media? Because it was at that time where, okay, we see how we're using it personally. People are going to use it personally, but brands didn't know what to do just yet. And I just remember all of, I just remember making all of these points of why we should. And then finally it was kind of like, well, what's it going to hurt? If Facebook goes away one day, is that terrible that we tried it? I mean, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so, and I remember the conversation. So that was in 2008. And I remember the overall feel was that's going to be done by 2010. Like, wrap it, tie it with a bow, send it out.
Isn't that hilarious?
Here it is, 2015. And when I did that thing, that Facebook gets me every time with those, what were you doing when? So I did the, what was your first post? And it was in 2008. And I sat there for a second. How could that be 7 years ago? Like, time has flown, almost 8 years ago.
It's incredible.
It has just flown. And
what it's become, and all the different social media platforms, it's pretty remarkable.
So we have what's cool, and I'll get off this point because it's probably too much about my space or my personal space, but there's stats out there that are indicating most people in the US spend 23 minutes a day, 4 times a day on Facebook alone. Like that's 2 hours just, scrolling through, checking things out. And so it's probably one of our biggest habits collectively, I would imagine.
It is for me.
But here's the thing. Like, yes, it can be a time waster and all of that. But when I think of all the relationships and all of the people I've met as a result of social media, I can't imagine, growing a business without it.
I can't either. I don't know how you do it anymore, honestly. That's how I've built all my brands. I mean, that is, it's if you use it well and you build relationships and you share information and you maintain your integrity and you don't use social media as a platform to spew your, extremist political
Yes.
views or religious views. You have to use it with some savvy.
Right.
You don't alienate people, but I think it's such a powerful thing. And what amazes me is their ability to target and Facebook's ability to target your market and get the message that you're trying to get out there in front of the right people is just getting better. In fact, I was just reading an article, I think this morning, about the changes that are coming even this next year on Facebook. And it's remarkable. It's stunning how targeted marketing. It's way better than Google or something more general anymore, I think. So I think people are not be on social media these days with a business.
I remember my first marketing exercise in really understanding targeting, and the company I worked for was looking at buying this billboard that cost $7,000 per month.
Right.
And basically it wasn't my decision. I couldn't make a $7,000 a month decision at that point.
Right.
Pretty low on the totem pole. But the more senior people made the decision that yes, this is a good investment because this is the exact commute that these people we want to target from this sort of higher end area go to for their corporate jobs. And so they ended up getting the $7,000 a month billboard. And we had a year contract with it. And within 30 days, the company was like, we have to end this. It's not working. We're not getting the right people. And when I look at social media, when we're paying like 2 cents a click or something like that.
I know. I mean, right now, like I promoted a post this morning for Hopepreneurs, something that we're promoting. And I just wanted to do a quick one-day post just to see what kind of results we got. It cost me $20, and the estimated reach was between, like 2,000 and 4,000 people in our target market.
Yeah.
For $20.
Why not? You know what I mean? Like
a billboard.
That's not going to break you, and you're probably going to get some decent traffic out of it. It's $20.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. I mean, for Hopepreneurs, we almost exclusively use social media now to market, and we sell out events, and we're growing every month. And, we have a really robust membership already, and it's all been through social media because Lisa Abeda, my co-founder, and I are both really, really big on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Yeah, those are the ones.
For the listeners who don't know what Hopepreneurs is, share a little bit about what it is and what you're doing, what the vision is.
So Hopepreneurs is it's a peer network for women, launched specifically to serve New Mexican women because I live in Albuquerque. I used to live in Seattle. I was in Seattle for almost 20 years. I moved back here and was kind of shocked at the lack of resources available for women entrepreneurs in the state. It's much more robust in Seattle, and obviously, up in Colorado, there's a lot more, and California, and in New York City, which I've done a lot of work in New York City. I have a lot of clients there, and I've been a part of groups in New York, and it's just, I was absolutely amazed at how little there was here for women entrepreneurs and business owners. And so, and my co-founder, Lisa Abeda, and I, she's a founder of a tech company here, CEO of a tech company that's growing by leaps and bounds right now. And she was feeling totally isolated, and we just happened to both volunteer to help us the first startup weekend here in Albuquerque. This was 2 years ago.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Well, yeah, more than 2 years ago now. And found each other that way and got together and started talking about how there was a real need for this, and launched Hopepreneurs that afternoon. It was a very impetuous decision, but one of the best ones we've ever made. I do not recommend doing that.
I love to launched it in an afternoon. Like that is ambition.
Somebody you don't know. But it's been an incredible partnership, and so we are serving New Mexican women, but we are expanding nationally. We've actually had people request to head up chapters in Seattle, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, Fairfield, Iowa, New York City. We're getting requests from all over the country. So we're going to be launching chapters in other cities. But the main focus has been New Mexico up until now for the last 2 years.
And you have, under Hopepreneurs, you have so many, I don't know what you call them, initiatives. Like,
Yeah.
tell us more about the initiatives, because there's a lot of really great things that you're doing as far as scholarships or
Yeah.
awards and all of that.
Well, so what we came up with I don't know, probably a year and a half ago was the idea of offering a training program that would be scholarship based for underserved women in the state of New Mexico, where they would come in and they would get a little bit of scholarship money, and they would get 12 months of training, mentoring, and coaching from Lisa and myself, and from our board of directors, who are all successful women entrepreneurs here.
Yeah.
And that's called Hopes. And what we realize is it's a business accelerator is what it is, but it's all scholarship based. So the women that get into Hopes win full tuition scholarship, and they get some money out of a fund that we raise every year.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of seed money, and then they get mentoring and coaching, training. They get into all of our events free, and then also my law firm does trademark packages for each of them that need it.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, and we've just had incredible success. I mean, accelerators, there's generally on the national average, if 1 in 10 companies that go through a business accelerator succeed, that's considered very successful. And we're near the end of the 12 months for our first class of Hopes. And so far, 5 of 6 are not only thriving, but poised to expand nationally right now.
Wow.
So we've got a really good track record so far. So we think what we're doing is working. And so we've decided now to launch a for-profit, or a for-fee, I should say, accelerator that's going to be the exact same curriculum as Hopes, but you can pay to attend. So you may not win a scholarship, but you could still attend the curriculum, and that's called Accelerator. And we're launching that right now.
What do you think, or is there, when these women come into your program, is there some common denominator on what they're having trouble with? And if there is, I'm interested to know if you would share any input with our listeners.
Yeah. It's interesting, because I think if you've spent any time, and I'm sure you have, in a mastermind with like-minded women, even if you're in different industries, you find that you have a lot of the same issues.
Right.
And they may not all come up at the same time, but you will have dealt with them at one time or another. So there's a lot of collective wisdom to share with each other. And so we found the same experience with this group, because we basically they have become their own mastermind, this group of scholarship winners. And that's our intent. So that they'll continue with that after the 12 months. We hope they'll stay as a group and continue to support each other, and we'll support them. Right. Yeah, I mean, the issues surround a variety of things, and I think this is true for all women. I've been in a number of masterminds through the years, so I've had this experience myself. It surrounds employee issues. That's always a big one. Managing employees, and the consistency thing and the systemization thing we talked about earlier. Right. Finding the right employees that embrace that and care about the brand experience of your clients or customers. Right. Keeping your employees happy, how to manage them, how to be an effective CEO. Is always an issue. How to manage your own time and not burn out, because as women, we tend to be juggling a lot of responsibilities, not just work. And as we get more successful, our families become more reliant upon us as the breadwinners, even if we're married. Now I'm a single mom, so I'm the sole breadwinner, but that seems to be a big issue. And then you've got the issues the effect that has on your marriage if you're married, because a lot of times men have trouble with that when the wife surpasses their earning ability. And so it's like everything from marriages to children, parenting issues, to employee issues, to, how to get more, feet in the door or sales online. I mean, it's pretty across the board. And I think it's stuff that everyone who's ever owned a business deals with. It's not unique to any industry.
Right. One thing we talked about in a mastermind group I'm in, we happen to all be service providers, and not this year, but it was last year where we came up with this term, and we just felt like we were at even Steven. Like every time we'd gain a client, something would happen and one would fall off, and then we'd gain 2 and 2 would fall. And we all set out to break the even Steven curse. And then
I love that.
This year for all of us has been just huge growth. And it was basically collectively, although we were different industries, it was the same thing. It was more business development, more partnerships, more web traffic, like all those same things, tightening systems so we retain more,
that's amazing. And I think one of the great things about a good mastermind group is that you tell each other the truth in love.
Yeah.
And you point out each other's blind spots, because so often we can't see our own. And we can reflect back to each other in a loving way and in a safe way.
Right.
I thought about this, this is what I'm observing. And I think that can really help. But, they say that what gets measured improves. What you put your time and energy on grows.
Right.
And so when you have a group like that collectively putting energy into, busting the even Steven syndrome, it's no wonder to me that would change. It's such a powerful thing when you bring like minds together like that and hold each other accountable, because I think that's part of the beauty of that group.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we wrap up, I would love to know, what do you think is the big trend or the big topic that we'll be talking about this time next year? What's on your radar?
I think there's probably two things they're on my mind, and they're definitely focused. They're centered on what I'm doing in the world. And one is the power of women entrepreneurs, because I think that we've been underestimated as a group. Yeah. We've been steadily growing, but haven't really necessarily had the collective influence that we should, given our numbers. But I think that's changing. I think that people are starting to recognize how brilliant women can be in leadership roles, particularly as CEO. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to see a lot more businesses launched by women, and a greater need for services and support for those types of businesses. And women just embracing the fact that we control 85% of all consumer purchases, and understanding the power of our buying power.
Right.
I think is something that's going to become more of a focus this next year. And then the other one is that we just talked about. It's really embracing social media as the platform for marketing your business and how to do that, because it's not going away. There's more and more people, embracing social media, and and using cross-platform marketing strategies.
Right.
Not just sitting on Facebook, but understanding the power of other platforms like Pinterest or Instagram or Periscope, which is obviously getting big. So I think those are the two things that we're really going to see in the next year.
Those are really good. And I think you're right. I'm seeing so much research about the value that women bring to women-led startups in particular. And what I'm seeing is that they're more profitable, they stay around longer, they grow more quickly. And those stats are put out by big, legit publications too. They're really looking at those numbers. And I think that's interesting to see.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Hear more and more. All right, Jessica, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I so enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for having me. Happy holidays.
Thanks. Same to you.
Thanks.